Hi, I'm John Milewski, host of Dialogue, on the set of Dialogue, where I just concluded an interview with Robin Wright. And Robin's new book is this one, Rock the Casbah, Rage and Rebellion Across the Islamic World. A terrific piece of work, and Robin, a pleasure to talk to you about it. I want to ask you this. One thing that's interesting to me, for someone like you who has been so immersed in this subject matter for so long and qualifies on the short list of experts in the country, certainly and around the world, still, when you get into the process of putting it into the form of a book, I'm sure some paradigms shift and you learn some new things. In writing this book, what did you start to look at a little differently than you'd thought about it in the past? Or was there something perhaps that you overlooked in the past that became more prominent in your thinking as you wrote the book? Well,
it was clear that the Islamic world was going through the beginning of change. But what was fascinating to watch during the 2 years I reported was how it moved from wanting change to doing something about it. And watching the kids figure out a way to get together, turn out on the streets, and challenge some of the biggest, toughest security forces in the Arab world.
So the chronic became the acute.
And the effective. Yeah. For the first time, some of these countries in thousands of years have had really democratic movements.
Well, so much of the book is hopeful, but one of the things I found somewhat depressing is the description of the U.S. response or U.S. foreign policy, which always seems to be behind the curve, a step behind, if not more than a step behind.
The United States has gone through a real transformation in its willingness to walk away from stalwarts like Hosni Mubarak in Egypt, who ruled for 30 years, and had been essential to the U.S. peace process. But the United States has a dividing line in the region. Those countries in North Africa and some of the Levant, where we're willing to see change and democratic openings and to abandon longstanding allies, and then the Gulf countries, where whether it's our desire for stability, our fear of Iran and its nuclear potential, or the issue of oil, we have not been willing to push on that front.
Stability often gets in the way of being on the right side of history, doesn't it?
It always has, and so we still have issues. We're kind of two-faced in our approach to that issue.
One final thing I'd like you to comment on, if you would, is when you're describing the challenges for U.S. policy, the one you end on, I think, is the most significant, is this notion of moving beyond fear. How far down the tracks are we in that regard?
A decade after 9/11, I think we're actually, in the United States, more afraid of Islam than we were in the immediate aftermath of 9/11, when there was a kind of sense of reason. Look, these were extremists. Mm-hmm. In that decade, we've begun to believe that there's some bigger force out there, that al-Qaeda is actually more powerful. Even though we've gotten bin Laden, the fact is that whether it's the Islamic political forces, that we lump all together with the militants, when in fact there are huge differences. And the most surprising thing I learned in this book was just the extraordinary scope of opposition to the idea of a militant jihad.
Well, Robin, thank you and good luck with the book. And here it is again, Rock the Casbah. And if you'd like to hear more from Robin, we just completed an entire 30-minute interview. You can find that on our website, wilsoncenter.org. If you click on the upper right-hand tab that says Dialogue, you'll find links to the complete interview. But that's the Cliff Notes. You should go to a bookstore or go to your favorite online vendor and actually read. Not a bad idea. Thanks.